During this series, we'll be taking a look at some of the many positive ways in which conflict is being addressed by those who find themselves in the midst of it, from individuals to organizations, and from politicians to peace processes. This week, we hear from 3 people from Israel, Indonesia, and Burundi. These people have overcome their own prejudices and taken enormous personal risks to try to come up with a peaceful and lasting solution to their country's problems. Yitzhak Frankenthal was the head of an Israeli peace movement between 1995 and 1998. After losing his own son in the conflict with the Palestinians, he set up a parents' circle with a number of other bereaved families. But Mr. Frankenthal wasn't satisfied with just sharing his grief with other Israelis. He wanted to take reconciliation one step further and put himself into the Palestinians' shoes.
One of the first steps was to find if the Palestinians want to make reconciliation and to achieve peace. So I went to Gaza. I've been there over 200 times in Gaza, and I met Palestinian bereaved families. And today they are from the West Bank and Gaza together, over 250 Palestinian bereaved families that working together with us to try to establish this reconciliation and peace.
Promoting dialogue with the other side is clearly a step in the right direction. But can such deep-rooted suspicions be dispelled by merely talking together?
Now, what we try to achieve, it is even not to convince the people. We don't looking for convince people. We would like to raise questions, to explain to the people the situation, to talk very openly and to put the truth on the table, and to say to the people what we are believing as the Israeli patriots and the Palestinian as the Palestinian patriots, and to try through this truth to achieve reconciliation and to achieve change in the public opinion. And I got many response from people who are saying to me that they admire what we are doing. And I'm sure there are many people who hate what we are doing, but I believe that, we have given over 1,000 lectures in high school, almost 2,000 lectures in high schools. Many times you saw the kids before the lecture and after the lecture, and it's a different point of view of those kids.
Mr. Frankenthal has been working for peace for the past 29 years. In that time, the peace process has floundered and been resuscitated countless times. Nevertheless, he remains optimistic.
Must tell you that during those years we have got over 500 meetings together with the Palestinians, over 40 dialogue seminars for 2 days with the Palestinians, and many acts that we have done together. Now our motivation is, and our basically idea is that if people like us, we are not looking for revenge or hatred, so anyone need and can to seek for reconciliation and peace. We would like to change the public opinion, both sides, the Israelis and the Palestinian side, to push them, not to force, to push them, to understand that there is only one way to achieve peace. It's by reconciliation, a real reconciliation. There is no question about it. It will happen. The question how many more people will die till we will achieve it.
Ulil Abshar Abdallah is a Muslim intellectual in Indonesia. He's also the coordinator of the Islam Liberal Network. Since September 11th, the international public image of Islam has suffered. The voice of militant Islam is perceived to be the only voice, but there are in fact almost as many voices as there are Muslims. Abshar Abdallah believes the voice of moderate Islam has been sidelined by recent events He uses the airwaves, newspaper columns, and his own network to get his message across.
What people of Islam need is to speak out their mind and to voice the moderate aspiration. Otherwise, the people will be dominated by the radical view. So liberal Islam network is intentionally, from the very beginning, try to speak loudly that the voice of radical is not the only voice of Islam, and people must be standing up, challenging it, and not fear by doing that of being branded as an anti-Islam. What we fear is that the public space or are monopolized by the radical view.
Abshar Abdallah's Liberal Islam Network began tackling the militant message back in 2001. He says his group has been successful in getting the intellectuals and the students on board, especially since the universities were a stronghold for radical groups. But long-lasting solutions involved a shift in values and attitudes at all levels of society.
The challenge in the future is how to bring this elite discourse into more popular discourse in order to address the grassroots level, because the real battle is on the grassroots level, in the mosque, in the circle of teaching, the so-called majlis ta'lim, the circle of teaching in many mosques in almost every city of Indonesia. I think this freedom must be, in the first place, the freedom to speak a rational thing about religion, but not irrational thing about religion. Of course, this freedom must not or should not be a monopoly at the hand of liberal, but also this freedom is also for the radical. But the mistake of the moderate people is that they stay in the margin, in the sideline, and letting the radicals the only speakers of the Muslim people. So I intentionally put myself in the spearhead, in the forefront, to challenge this view, and of course this is taken not without the risk.
Abshar Abdallah feels under threat for advocating freedom of speech, but he's determined not to abandon his quest for a more open and tolerant Islam.
So in my view, in my opinion, Muslim society must be given a good chance to exchange vision, to exchange thought, to exchange views on Islam, regardless of its certain links to certain mazhab or school of thought. What I complain about Muslim society now, in Indonesia in particular, is that there is a tendency that certain views are so dominant that it doesn't give any chance to others' view to speak to the people. I think this kind of thinking is very simplistic and very in contradiction with the basic value of Islam, who support dialogue with all civilization and encourage Muslims to learn from many sources, including the West. If you always speak about the West, so how could you improve your Islam? And how could you improve the Muslim world? Because technology is in the West. Prosperity is in the West. Good education is in the West. The requirement for the Muslim society to be a mature society, to be a democratic society, is how they entertain the idea of pluralism. If pluralism is accepted as an idea, if tolerance is accepted as an idea, I think that's a starting point for the Muslim society to be a mature society.
Kanyabushi is a 60-year-old Tutsi from the tiny Central African country of Burundi. Like Rwanda, Burundi is racked by internal conflict between ethnic Hutus and Tutsis. Kanyabushi is a farmer, and during the reprisals by government soldiers and Tutsi militia in 1993, he risked his life to protect a number of Hutu neighbors who were being hunted down. Here's his story.
I offered protection to people coming from many places. One of them passed through the rear door of my house early in the morning. At that time, soldiers were already at my gate, seeking the man. The following day came many women from other villages. One of them was pregnant. I warmly welcomed her. Finally, she gave birth in my house. She is still alive. She is wife to a man called Nenheri. That woman is a Hutu, but I'm a Tutsi. Another Hutu woman came the following day with her child. They were on verge of death because of hunger. I fed them and they spent a night in my house. I assisted any needy person because for me, a human being is always a human being. I had told my children that I would curse anyone who would dare loot goods from our Hutu neighbors. These Hutu were being hunted to death by government soldiers and Tutsi militia who were burning Hutus' houses at a locality called Nyarukere. So I welcomed and hid some of the Hutu who were fleeing. I gave them food and beer. While we were drinking, sharing beer and food, we heard a lot of gunshots nearby, and I told the displaced person to hide. From time immemorial, Hutu and Tutsi were in good terms. I could travel everywhere in the country and get a shelter from everybody. These Hutu were my neighbors. They pardoned me when my cattle damaged their crops. We kept this relationship until now. We consider ourselves as one family. As no one knows well his father, we could be brothers. We should only blame politicians who brought divisions among Burundians. Let me end by this piece of advice. We are Christians. We all have blood streaming in our nerves. Stop divisions and love one another. All Hutu are not bad. All Tutsi are not bad. I know so many Hutu and Tutsi who are good. I know them because I was born and grew up with them.
These are just 3 stories of people opposing conflict and violence in their own countries. But there are thousands more like them all over the world. Wherever there is conflict and war, there are also ordinary people who decide to take an extraordinary stand. This program is produced by Common Ground Productions and Radio Netherlands.